My name is Dr. Christopher Emomolen. For those who are listening, I'll be sharing my screen with you. And I want to ask Yomi, if you can hear me, Mr. Yomi, please just signify so that I can go ahead with the class, please.
I can hear you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Great. So we will be looking at the topic, which is organizational behavior and organizational behavior practical. That's what we'll be looking at. The other part will be taken later. But I'm seeing that we have 67 persons who are attending this class. This is quite a low number. This I don't want students to start absenting themselves from the class because it's not a good remark for you because believe me, you do not know when school is going to resume. You'll be very shocked that your exam will be done online, yeah, for this semester. And those students who have not attended their classes may end up regretting because they might have so many carryovers and that is not too good. That is not our intention. We want students to be online. I know it's costing many of us data, especially this period. We understand all those things, but we all need to ensure that we move on. We cannot stop our life because of this. We need to move on. Let's all of us take the sacrifice to continue with the classes. Let's take our assignment serious and every other thing that we need to do. So let's continue with the class. What and I got some of you that submitted your assignment. I'm already marking them and you will be having the grade very soon. And those that did not submit, well, you should know that by now I'm not going to be receiving, even if you send any of the assignment now, it's not going to be marked because it's already late. Because we always give 1 week deadline to submission of assignments. So remember 35 marks is allocated to this online training. So it's very important you all attend. So as you can see on the screen, what is organizational behavior and why is it important? That is one of the things that we will be looking at. What is organizational behavior and why is it important? Organizational behavior is study of human behavior in organization, and the other one is an interdisciplinary field devoted to understanding individual and group behavior, interpersonal processes, and organization now dynamics. What is interdisciplinary fields like people who you could have admin, you could have logistics, you could have accounts, you could have finance, you could have so many departments, fields, how they all relate together, how their independent behavior sum up group to see to be able to interpret the processes, how they're able to align with the process, how staff are able to follow standard operating procedure at workplace. So organizational behavior helps you to one ensure that you study behavior of the organization because individual behavior sum up to what we eventually have as the organizational culture, which is a summation of individual behaviors. So, what is organizational behavior and why is it important? Scientific method model. Let's look at this. Simplified view of reality that attempt to identify major factors and forces underlining real work phenomena. So, simplified view of reality that attempt to identify major factors and forces underlying the real work phenomena. So, one is it helps to simplify to understand how external and internal factor can affect human work. For example, let's look at motivation of staff. This can help is a major factor. That is when you see the word identify major factors, let's say motivation of staff, how it can it's a force in working in affecting the behavior of staff. So it's a scientific method that so we look at that. So it helps. So when employers or someone like you get to know what are the major factors that affect the responses of workers at work, you can know how it is being imputed to ensure maximum um, performance from them. So let's look at second one, link presumed causes of event. Linked presumed cause independent variable with outcome. When we talk about presumed cause of effect events, sometimes we call it cause and action. Cause and action. That is what can happen that will lead to this. And you sometimes you can know that when workers work in a good environment, they tend to be lazy. For example, I'm not trying to say that is what happens, but it links for you what action and what causes. Like what do you put in and what is going to be the results. You can actually see that once you do this, you get this. That is those are scientific model. It helps you to give scientific method model in order to be able to achieve your effective and maximum results. So let's look at common scientific research method in organizational behavior. Common scientific method in organizational behavior. Let's look at um, the fourth box. So we talk about field studies, we talk about meta-analysis, we talk about survey studies, we talk about case studies, we talk about laboratory studies. Look at source of research, insight of you can see okay organizational behavior. So when you see OB, it means organizational behavior. So insight in organizational behavior, source of research, and it helps you once you're able to. Source of research means gathering of information. Source of research, how do you get data, information? This information helps you. How you can get information in different ways. I don't want to go there. You can either get it through qualitative analysis or through quantitative analysis. Qualitative analysis is when you use scientific data in generating information that does not lie, it does not have anything to do with the opinion of the person giving the information, but quali- qualitative data is one that you get from, for example, now when you interview people, they tell you what is happening to them. Those are more like qualitative data. So it has a lot of things to do with the opinion of the person granting the interview. I don't want to go deep because you don't need to know that. I just need to just explain that quickly. So let's look at source of research now, field study in real life organization setting. You can get your research, your information by field study, by knowing what is happening in the field. It's more like an auditing process, you know, because when you want to real life organization setting, so you can walk around the organization to see how staff are behaving and acting, trying to look why are they behaving this way. It's an auditing. It's more like we call it what's it called? The part of auditing. There's a name we call it work-based auditing, or we have conformance auditing, compliance auditing, and compliance auditing. Yeah, sometimes unscheduled auditing. Unscheduled auditing is when you visit your workplace. You want to know without announcing to them, because when you don't schedule to check what is happening, you might get the right information. But when you announce to staff, oh, on Monday we'll be coming to check what is happening, sometimes you might not really get information because there's so much pretense. So let's look at laboratory study in simulated and controlled. So laboratory study is just like a more like an analytical process where you want to check intrinsic factors that are responsible to. Okay, when I said action and act, it's called cause and effect. Sorry, if I may go back, cause and effect. I just need to understand. So you want to know laboratory study here is when you take information to laboratory to check intrinsically to see internal causes for action. So let's look at case study. Look in depth at a single situation. Case study. When you talk about case study, you know, even by the time you get to your 400 level and you want to write your project, you understand more of what we mean by case study. For example, let's look at student of JPTS attitude. If, for example, one of the things that I know student of JPTS for is some of the students of JPTS are lazy to study. Not all, few of them study. Some are lazy to study. So let's say, what is the cause for laziness among JPTS students? Using, for example, maybe one of you who are here as a case study, using Akin Shola Omotayo as a case study. Now you can see now. So we are now using Akin Shola Omotayo to know why is Akin Shola Omotayo lazy to study. So whatever finding we find that makes Akintola Omotayo lazy, then we can now generalize it to say, oh, if Akintola Omotayo is lazy because of so reason, then that is the same reason why JBTS student is lazy. Hope you now see why what case study means. Looking in depth at singular words. Each situation to now generalize. So let's look at survey. Survey study using questionnaires, interview in sampling population. You know, questionnaires is you have already written questions that you want to ask, then you pass it across to the people who you want to get the research from to know, okay, why you know, do they tell you and you fill the questionnaire. That is also a source of research. So common scientific research method of in understanding the organization behavior. The last one is meta analysis using statistics to pull results of different empirical studies. This is a very detailed scientific system here where you can use statistical tool like your pie chart, your bar chart, and other more empirical what's it called statistical um, tool to know okay what you know. But this would have emanated after you must have gotten information, maybe via field study, via case, via survey. Then these data are put into the which gives you a better interpretation on how different factors relate with themselves. So, so let's look at which techniques can be generalized across multiple settings. So this is a question. This is a question, and I want you guys to answer this question as your assignment. Which techniques can be generalized across multiple settings? You know, look at the drawing that we have given to you. So now think about it. Which of these, from what I've explained, can be can be generalized across multiple settings? I know the answer. I want you to answer it. So this is number one. Number one is this is an objective question. Which setting can be generalized? So you tell me and you tell me why is your answer. So if you're going to say it's field study that can be generalized, one can be generalized. So you have to tell me which. So if it's field study, tell me why it's field study, and the answer is already here, but I don't want to go to the answer. So you're going to be answering that for me as your. Oh, sorry. Okay, don't answer it again because I've already shown you guys the answer. So okay, let me show you guys the answer, but you know you're not going to answer that. But I know JBTS students, you guys will just quickly copy it and send to me. So answer is B, which is the men. Remember I told you that the mental analysis uses two. So it can he uses statistical for results of different empirical studies. These aggregating techniques allow OB, what is OB? Organizational behavior researchers to generalize and apply conclusion to many OB situations. So do not answer that question again. That is not a question which I'm going to give to you guys because the answer is already here. So which techniques can be okay that have been answered. So let's go ahead. What is organizational behavior and why is it important? Remember, these are the things that we are looking at today. Last week we looked at organizational behavior generally. When we talk about organizational behavior, organizational process, and organizational culture, I think those are the three things I spoke last week on. And now we are now looking at what is the importance of organizational behavior and why is it important. Scientific thinking is important to organizational behavior. The process of data collection is controlled and systematic. Is controlled and systematic. Okay, systematic. It should be systemic. So the process of data collection is controlled and systemic. That should be it. The proposed explanation are carefully tested. Only explanations that can be rigorously verified are accepted. You can see once you're able to receive data, then you should be able to process the data. How do you process data? Data are processed using different algorithms. For example, you can process the data to see, okay, how does this verification of this data that you are collecting must be reliable. I think we spoke about that. Whatever data that you are bringing in as to judge organization behavior must be reliable, must be reliable, very very reliable, because you have to check what is the source of the data. Many of you go on Facebook, you see news, and without checking the reliability of that information, you consume them. It's dangerous. So when you get information on social media, the first thing you have to do is who shared the information. Is the source of this information reliable? Or it's from Punch newspaper, it's from Guardian. Oh, okay. Punch, if it's an household name, oh, reliability is high. So data must be, before it is processed, proposed explanation are carefully tested. Only explanation that can be rigorously verified is what is accepted. So let's look at continue, contingency thinking is another reason why this is important. It helps for contingency thinking. Six way to meet the need of different management situation. When you get information, organization behavior, what and why is it important? It seeks way to meet the need of different management situation. Recognizes response to solutions must be crafted to best fit the circumstances and people involved. So you can see now, why is organization contingency thinking? When we talk about contingency, what is the meaning of contingency? Contingency could mean extra, could mean what is unplanned for, could mean miscellaneous. So it or could mean others. So now it helps you to meet different management situation. Even yeah, so once you have a proper plan for your organizational behavior, many management situations would be solved because you'll be meeting those needs. Recognized responses to solution must be crafted to best fit the circumstances and people involved. This course might be getting it to be abstract for some of you, but you must understand it step by step. So let's continue. Evidence-based management. So now with organizational behavior steps and systems, you are not working haphazard. You are not working on assumption. Some companies are just running without having things in place. So once you have a proper OB in place, you are now working on evidence-based. Once you are sure of every step you are making, you are sure of decisions that you are taking because your decisions are guided by input and research that have been gotten from reliable sources, have been analyzed, and have been processed. And this information is now being passed across to your staff as a standard operation, is now passed across to your customers, and this formed their behavior because you now know that when staff smile at work, it helps to bring more customer, for example. So now you're now working on evidence-based management. Use artifact and empirical evidence to make decisions. That's what I mean. Evidence-based thinking manifests itself through a contingency approach, which researchers identify how different situations can best be understood and handled. So you are now working with informed decision, not just from a layman point of view. So let's look at it now. Model workplace trend. There is no major organization in the world that do not have this in place. Companies like Amazon, like Facebook, like Twitter, like Shell, like Chevron, these are their OB. So they have this in place. They don't, that's why when you people everybody want to work in such company because they have all these facts in place. So model workplace trend, commitment to ethical behavior. You see staff want to commit to ethical behavior. Broader view of leadership, emphasis in human capital and teamwork, demise of command and control, influence of technology, respect for new workforce expectation, changing concept of career, concern for sustainability. Have you not seen staff who leave a workplace even when they are well paid? You say, why? Is it because I am not learning? I'm just there. There's no future. Some of the reason is because there's lack of what model workplace trend. So when there's modern workplace stress, staff enjoy to work more. They understand the work simpler and better, and it helps them to generate better results at workplace. So it's very important we understand that. So let's look at this. Um, work. What are organizations like as work setting? So I will be looking at this quickly. Let me quickly check. Okay, I want to believe that many of us are here. 7:20. Okay, so what are organizations like as work setting? Organization is a collection of people working together to achieve what common purpose, not different purpose. So when people are working in one way to achieve individually achieve different purpose, then there's a problem. Organization culture. I'm still trying to paraphrase this. A shared set of belief and value within an organization. According to Meg Whiteman, former eBay CEO, it is the character of the organization. Organization fits match organizational culture and organizational character. I think some of these things are things that we have discussed the last time, and I wouldn't want to dwell on them so much. Open system. Open system obtain resources input from the environment and transform human and material resources input to finished goods and service. These are open system, like is the environment upon which a company works from. So the environment interfere or actually influence the work culture, the work organization behavior and the rest. Because you have to study from the environment to know how to operate. So let's quickly look at this. Organization as open system interact with their environment. You can see this. Please, I would like you guys to snap this, screenshot it. You need this diagram. You need to rehearse it. You need to understand it. If there's one question you're going to be having in your exam, I believe this diagrams is going to be part of those questions, like showing you diagrams and asking you to explain what you see on those diagrams. I'm telling you, if you so not just so anytime you see diagrams like this, try to understand it so that whenever these questions comes out, you do just from your head you write down. That is the best form. I don't need you guys to cram for me. If I ask you what is an organization, you should be able to explain it from your own perspective. Don't wait for the way exactly the way it's written there. If you cram, you pass. But it's not that is not all about education. Education is you having to know what you know anytime, anything. Even after your graduation, you can still say it. So let's look at this. The chart, the diagram we have seen. We have the resources input. We have the transforming transformation input, which is the process, and we have the product input. So we have the information coming in into the company. This is the organization, and this is the output. This is what we want to see. So you can see now. So you can see now information, material, technology, facility, money, and people. These are the inputs. This is what is coming to the company. So how do we interpret this? How do the company interpret information? How do they take material? How do they process it? Technology? How do they use it to enhance their activities, facilities? How? So you can actually give this same thing to different organizations. The usage will be different because of what they are, the way they process is very important. So once all these inputs come to the company, it is transformed by, for example, information are being processed by top management, work activities, and this eventually gives you product. So when you have bad product, it's not because of the input, it's because of the way it is being processed majorly. So of course, if you have bad input, of course I know you're gonna have bad products. But let's assume that all the input have been sourced and they are okay. If you have your bad processes, your product and goods and services will be very bad. But talk about service. Service could be attitude, could be character, could be the way service things are being delivered. Many of us would have visited hotels. If you have traveled out of this country, you see the way services are being rendered out of the country. And when you come to an hotel, for example, in Port Harcourt, or you go to Bayelsa, or in Lagos, you go to a place like Ajangbadi, sometimes you wonder if some of these hotels actually have trainings for their staff, because not the reason is because the way it's been processed. So information comes into the organization, it's been processed. You can see that it's very simple. Then so customer feedback is from here. So you want to know from customer, how is this thing working? How is it okay? What is the problem? Can you tell us more? So that you can, when you get customer feedback, you process, so that you change, you review. When you review, you re-implement, and you get good product. So please note this diagram. Do not joke with that diagram. It's very, very important for you. So let's look at what our organizations like in workplace. So let's look at value chain. Sequence of activities that result in the creation of good, goods and services of value to customer. Value chain. Value chain is not just one; it's a sequence of activities. For example, let's look at it. If you go to the bank to withdraw money or to send money, you start from where the gate. You meet the security man. How is the security man responding? How is he doing his job? Sometimes when you drive to a bank and you just see the security man sitting down in his chair and he's not pointing his hand, so okay, park, just park anywhere you like. From there you are looking, why is this bank like this? Because the security man is part of the value chain now, activity now. So when the security man has behaved that way, you parked and you entered into dead man door, like the bank. You meet another security by the door and they say, oh, welcome sir to our bank. It behaves very well. But the first security man had actually irritated you. So it means that the total services might be bad because of just one. So when one of the system is bad, when one of the activity in the value chain is bad, it does not give customer value. So value chain here is what? Sequence of activities that result in the creation of goods and services of value to customer. So I want you guys to understand with that simple explanation. Let's look at stakeholder. Stakeholder are people, group, and institution that are affected by and thus have an interest or stake in an organization performance. Students of JPTS are stakeholder in JPTS. That is why we always tell students to always show good example to the public, because the the work of JPTS is not how big the building or all the centers is the quality of every individual student in JPTS. When one JPTS student, for example, discover the cure of coronavirus, do you know what that would do to JPTS? Oh, JPTS. You see, the guy who discovered the cure or one of the cure of corona in Madagascar is just one guy. But now the country, University of Ibadan, maybe a professor at University of Ibadan discover, oh, a professor, then it's the University of Ibadan. So a stakeholder is people, group, or institution that are affected by and thus have interest or stake. We've seen situation of even JPTS, they use their mouth to spoil JPTS. But a stakeholder, how can you be using your mouth to destroy something that you are part of? That is not wise. So you must understand that you are a stakeholder in JPTS, and you must also understand the meaning of stakeholder. Stakeholder is not just the owners, the lecturer, the no, the everybody that is involved in the process. Your experience, describe. Okay, so you are going to, this is your question. I like this question. Please write it down. Describe an organization. Please don't describe JPTS. Describe an organization you have worked for or you have been a member of any organization, not JPTS. If you have not worked before, you have been a member of maybe a church, an organization, you have been a member, you're a Red Cross member, you were a police. How was the culture constructive? How was the culture constructive, defensive, aggressive? Explain. So that's your number one. Your number one. So you cannot copy yourself because all of you should go and write the same. That you people work in the same company. It means that you all the whole question will be cancelled. So describe an organization you have worked for or have been a member of. How was the culture? Using the terms of my explanation. So this is your first assignment, which I expect you guys to submit before Friday. This one is not even 1 week. Before Friday this week. Any assignment I receive after Friday will not be attended to. My email address is irenuba@yahoo.com. Irenuba is Irenuba. Irenuba. Many of you after now you'll now be sending mail to my mail to ask me of my mail. I'm surprised. How did you get my mail in the first place? You are sending mail to me to say, sir, we did not get your mail. And you're sending mail to me. Is that not my mail? So please, my mail is irenuba@yahoo.com. Irenuba is Irenuba. Please don't send mail to my mail to tell me you have not gotten this mail. That mail you have sent mail to is the mail. Don't understand how you people used to behave. So we're going to be explaining this. Describe an organization you have worked for or have been a member of. How was the culture? Is it constructive, defensive, aggressive? Explain. Okay, so let me move ahead. What are okay? Let's look at workforce diversity now. These terminologies are very, very. If you are a student and you are listening and you are not writing down, then I don't know what you're doing. And some of you now you are now recording the voice. You play it on WhatsApp. Some other persons are not coming online. They say just let us record the voice, record it, and let us play it on WhatsApp so we can hear it. So, so let's look at workforce diversity. Presence of individual differences based on gender, race, ethnicity, age, able-bodiedness, and sexual orientation. So workforce diversity, you can see the presence of individual differences. So people are different. When people work, even in Egypt in your class, you have diversity, you have Muslims, you have Christians, you have Hindus, you have people that don't even believe in God. You have tall, short, female, male. You have 17 years, 20 years, 100, different, no 100 years. So sexual orientation different. So that is diversity, workforce diversity. Let's look at multiculturalism. Refer to pluralism and respect to diversity in workplace. Multiculturalism, respect to diversity. You must for when we talk about culture at work, you see people that they call them um they cannot what language they cannot accommodate others. Aristotle said something. He said, "For he that cannot accommodate the excesses or the limitation of his fellow man is a god with small letter G." Is wrong. So even at workplace, you have multicultural experience. You have people who are from some of you just said some of can even later maybe you'll be applying to there's something called student transfer. You can apply to transfer to not to promote on that school and study there. Sometimes you go to university but you see some people from US. It's called student transfer. They will just come and spend 2 months and go back. Multicultural just to come and learn the culture, the Yoruba culture, the Igbo culture. That is one of the essence of NYC. That is why they will say a Yoruba person should not serve in Yoruba land. Let him go to the east or the north to go and serve. So that when you serve in the north, you understand that the north are not really as wicked as you think. they are loving, they are caring, and it will change your mindset. So whenever you work anywhere, you can accept people from any other background. The reason why some people don't accept people, they just say Amala, they are wicked, or Igbo, I can never, Yoruba, no, I can never marry Yoruba. Let me tell you a story. An Igbo girl lives in Ibadan. He was born in Ibadan. They live in Ibadan, and now is the girl is grown enough to marry, and the girl brings to his parents an Ibadan boy, and the parents say, will never allow you to marry an Ibadan boy. You can only marry Igbo. Somebody that is in Ibadan that was given back, where will he see Igbo? Because you're in an environment like that, you have high chances of what getting somebody from that. So parents of such possibly could have not open heart towards encouraging or accepting other culture. So it affects work relations. So if you put people like that in a team to work with other tribes, they might not perform the best because they are, maybe I don't want to use the word racist. So inclusion, the degree to which an organizational culture respect and value diversity. Have you not seen some organization that they only employ Igbo? Yeah, your president is an Edo person from Edo State, but you discover that it's difficult for you to say, oh, maybe your lecturer are Edo, you see Yoruba, also are the best. So now, you now see some places it's only Hausa, some places only Igbo, some places only Yoruba. So an organization should be what open enough to accept, to a large extent, cultural respect and value diversity. Very, very important. So let's look at another term now, manager. 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 So manager is someone whose job is to directly support the work effort of others. Manager is not damager. There are some people who are supposed to be a manager, but they are damaging the workplace. So manager means someone whose job is to work, he supervises other, he supervises the supervisor. He makes sure that other people work effectively and they work. So they are calling me that my time is up. Is my time up? Okay, so I'm being told that my time is up. I was thinking that we would have gone far to explain it. So let me quickly say this. Effective manager helps other achieve high level of both performance and satisfaction. So I'll be ending my class today. We're going to continue from here. Always remember to submit my assignment. That the assignment I gave to you guys. Let me go back a little. This is the assignment. Describe an organization you have worked for or been a member of. How was the culture of constructive, defensive, and explain. You have to detailedly explain. I want to read it like a storybook. So it's not just you just write it was defensive because the manager is bad and you no. Tell me how you started working there, what happened there, how do you think it was. Write it like a story that is interesting. I want to read it. We're on break, so I want to have too much time to read. So thank you so much. I want you guys to have the best of the time as we end the class. God bless you. Stay safe.